president took action today to begin closing Guantanamo Bay's detention center in one of his first acts as president. 7 years later, he's pushing a plan into Congress to make that happen.
While the president says it's taken so long because the country needed to, quote, make sure we did it right, he says it's now become a partisan issue. News4Jax has followed this battle over the years, even visiting Cuba to see the conditions there. Kent's joining us now with reaction from lawmakers and more on the president's plan. Kent.
Yeah, Joy and Tarek, the president's plan is on the way and has been for some time, but he announced he sent that plan to Congress. There aren't many surprises in the plan, which comes with input from the Pentagon. The expected reaction continues to be caution from some of the president's supporters and outright objection from opponents.
For many years, it's been clear that the detention facility at Guantanamo Bay does not advance our national security. It undermines it.
President Obama announced his plan, which he'll send to Congress, to close this detention facility in Guantanamo Bay. We were there in Cuba last year, digging to understand the condition for these enemy combatants. Now, that's the government's way of not calling them prisoners, as they appear to be. President Obama calls closing this joint task force operation important for the nation in order to be able to move on from what he called a troubled era of wartime behavior. He also says it will help foreign relations.
Guantanamo harms our partnerships with allies and other countries whose cooperation we need against terrorism. When I talk to other world leaders, they bring up the fact that Guantanamo's not resolved.
We're not going to close Guantanamo. In fact, we shouldn't be releasing the people that are there now. They are enemy combatants.
Florida Senator Marco Rubio doesn't like the plan, nor does Florida Congressman Ted Yoho, at least not yet.
I'm okay at paring down Guantanamo and weaning it as a detention center, but not to close it.
I spoke with retired Major General Buddy Titshaw, the former adjutant general in Florida, says, I'm not comfortable with it at all. I think it's a bad idea. I think this push to close Guantanamo has led us to release some people we shouldn't have. It can be done more economically here if we're just talking about dollars. But I think there are a lot of Americans who feel safer if those people are kept at Gitmo. Florida Congressman Ron DeSantis says closing Guantanamo harms national security. Senator David Perdue from Georgia says Americans will not stand the thought of placing terrorists on U.S. soil, and the transfer of detainees to other countries does not erase the threat of their continued extremist actions. This plan from the Pentagon places our citizens at unacceptable and completely avoidable levels of risk. I've been asking for comment from a lot of folks. I just heard from Senator Bill Nelson, as a matter of fact. He says, I support closing the prison at Guantanamo Bay, but I also want to be certain that if we do, we're not going to be putting any Americans at risk. And I'll be taking a hard look at the president's plan to ensure that's the case. We'll have more on the 10 o'clock news, including more from our visit to that detention facility at Gitmo.